I think the one that I'm thinking about is Crowd Street, I want to say. Crowd Street, they say, oh, with $1,000, you can be a real estate investor and you can make returns, which is very attractive because right now, obviously, the stock market isn't doing very great, if you guys are aware. So this is kind of like banking on, since properties have appreciated so much, you know, you can capitalize on this with us as a group, and you don't have to really have the risk of these one properties. So, you know, I don't really know too much about that. I don't really deal with that, but I do have clients who ask me, so you have to have like a general knowledge of that. Then we have commercial sector, we have residential, we have flips, and we have new construction, and I'll get into a little bit more about that. So with REITs, you have two different types of REITs. Again, when you speak to your clients, you need to be confident, you need to be knowledgeable, you need to know what you're talking about, and if they were to ask you, what is a REIT, and you have absolutely no idea, then how are they going to trust you as an investment analyst for them, right? So you have equity REITs, and these are like, let's say like the Simon Group, or what is the Invitation Homes, where they buy like portfolios, you can invest into the shares of the property, you make money. Or you have mortgage REITs, and mortgage REITs are like, okay, so we have a portfolio of loans. So like when the crash happened, there was all these private investor groups, and what they would do is they would do like, okay, so you can buy a portfolio of like 50 mortgages, and you're gonna make a set, kind of like a more stable return. Because with equity REITs, you're banking on fluctuations of market values or room for improvements. Like let's say Invitation Homes, as they grow, as the portfolio, as the properties appreciate, then the cap rates get better, and so you're kind of like going with the flow of the market. If all of a sudden you get a lot of vacancies, then okay, your returns are going to go lower, whereas with mortgage REITs, it's kind of like stable. You're going to make, you know, we're lending on 4%, and everybody's going to make a little bit of a share of that, and so it's kind of like, I guess, more conservative. So for people who are visual, this is just the general of a REIT, right? So you have your investors, they invest in their shares, then they're going to acquire properties, or they're going to create loans, and then you're going to get the money from it, the rental income or the interest payments, and then they're going to distribute it to the people. So it's much like a stock. I'm not a financial advisor, so don't take any financial advice from me. So that's REITs. That's it. That's basic. That's all you really want to know. You just, like I said, want to be able to say, yeah, I know what that is. You know, and that's it. Let's move on. Let's buy and sell real estate, because that's what we do, right? Like, go see a financial advisor if REITs are your thing. So with commercial real estate, you have different ways that you can make money. You can acquire a commercial portfolio and you can lease it out, or you can build up a commercial development, or you can flip. You can buy a property that maybe is not performing to its potential, get it, you know, rehab it, and then get it fully occupied, and then sell it. Like, you know, and then you look at it like as a projection of what the future is going to do, where you see opportunities. With commercial real estate, there's so many sectors. It's very, very, very complex. Every single one of these components, like warehouses, gas station businesses, really gas stations could be any sort of businesses, right? You have retails, you have professional, you have medical, restaurants, hotels, multifamilies. There's so much to know about each one of these things. So like, if you don't really know, maybe you can get someone on your team that knows about all of these things, or as you gain experience, then you'll know. Like right now, I'm doing a lot of retail leasing. I've sold gas stations. I've done warehouse leasing, and like every single one of them is very, very, very different. So like with retail, you have to know like the lingo. Like, okay, so you're gonna do, how much is the base rent, which is the price per square foot, which is divided times by the square footage, divided by the months. It's very complex. If you don't know, you really need to learn. That's a whole nother class. But I just wanted to give you like a general overview of the types of commercial investments. My specialty would be residential properties. You have very different ways, a lot of different ways to invest, and I like to think of myself as like a real estate consultant that I can really take someone's needs, lifestyle, goals, and I could kind of package it for them and show them what would be the right way for them to invest, or maybe show them different types of opportunities. With the buy and hold, you've got people who are either moving up, moving down, they want to keep their portfolio, and then you kind of like guide them in what they want to do, and then you're going to analyze the deals differently, and you're going to kind of like make suggestions. Like for example, a young couple who's going to move up into a bigger house, and they're thinking, okay, what should I do with my current property? If there's a mortgage on that property, obviously the best bet, if you want to build a portfolio, obviously, because if you want to liquidate and move on, that's a different story. But like, let's say you want to get the bigger house, I would tell them, let's just rent out the property. Why are we going to sell it? Because we can use that income, and you don't, like, you can buy another house, because a lot of people don't know, you know, and then you just like slowly building your monopoly, and so you get them into a starter house, and they get a bigger house, maybe they move back to a smaller house, but you keep their portfolio. So their goals are going to be a little bit different, and the way you analyze the investments are going to be different. Then you have like the straight investors. These are people who have cash. They want to, you know, park their money somewhere, and you need to help them analyze their returns, and you need to help them understand the overall picture, and there's different ways that you look at it. So I'm going to show you my personal, I guess, tools that I've built over the years of how I look at numbers and how I showcase the information to my investors so that they can tell me like, wow, thank you so much, this information was great. And I'm really able to see it like in a picture. So when you're going to be leasing a property, obviously the first thing you want to do is make sure that property is okay to lease. There are some associations that do not allow leasing for a certain amount of years, or they have certain amount of restrictions on the days, so that's very important. You want to look at the vacancy rates. Right now there's no vacancy, pretty much. I mean, things are moving very, very fast. There's not enough properties. Everybody wants to live in Miami, so we don't really have too much of that problem, but there was a point in time where you had 25, 30 properties to choose from, so you want to make sure that you're looking into, you know, what in that building or in that neighborhood, how long does it take to rent a property, and then you also want to project those numbers to your client, because that's information. If I tell you, oh, you're going to make, you know, solid cash flow, $300 a month, or you're going to make 5% return, but I'm not factoring in those 2 months that it's going to be vacant, and I'm not telling you there's going to be a realtor fee or that the AC is going to potentially break, I'm doing you a disservice, because I'd rather tell you a lower number and then you trust me than try to just, you know, tell you what you want to hear because it looks good and then I sell you the property. You want to look at the age. The age is important because, hey, if it's a house that's 25 years old, guess what? That roof is going to need to be replaced, and that's $40,000. Or, you know, if it's in a building, that 40-year certification is coming through, and now there's going to be a special assessment. You know, there's so many things that you have to look forward, and you have to kind of like use your experience so that your client can make better decisions. Obviously, growth potential, and then, you know, the condition of the properties and the types of repairs that you're going to have to make. So, what is the difference between cap rates or an ROI and cash flow? Like, the reason why I'm pointing this out is because when I analyze investments for my clients, I have to, you know, when it's cash, we're going to look at cap rates and we're going to look at the return of investment, and those are the numbers that I'm going to analyze. When I look into a person who has leveraging, then I'm going to look at the cash flow. And then, like I said about your buyers or about your clients, you also have to make sure that you understand their needs. If you have someone that's very risky, then, you know, then they're like, okay, if I have $100,000, maybe I can get 2 or 3 properties and leverage them and let everybody else pay for me. But then you might have the conservative person who says, no, I'd rather just get 1 and then it's paid for and I don't have to depend on nobody's mortgage. Or maybe then you might look at someone's age. You know, maybe if I'm 50, 60, I don't really care about, you know, about the future, like about building a portfolio for the future. I just want to park my money for now. I want it to be liquidable. I want it to be safe. You know, you kind of have to feel out your customer. So let's get into the meat and potatoes. This is my investment analysis. I actually created this on an Excel sheet so that all of these numbers compute, and in the end of it, it spits out a cap rate, right? So what am I looking for? Obviously, this is 1234 Sesame Street. It's been on the market for 5 days. They're asking $260,000. There's about $20,000 in the amount of repairs that I'm going to do, plus my closing costs and my holding costs. So I kind of put that all together because that is a cost, and I want to know how much that costs, and I want to know how that makes my numbers turn out, right? So then we look at the total cost of this property is $280,000. The taxes are $3,100. You get this information on IMAP. The insurance is $2,000. There's no HOA. This is a house in Little Haiti, right? Okay, so the vacancy on this property is about I put 0.5 because you're always going to have about a half a month turnover because you have to do repairs, or, for whatever reason. I put a half a month right now, because you shouldn't really go farther than that unless you have an association with a 30-day clause. But that's that. So then the monthly rent here is $2,600 a month. We've got a realtor fee. This is important, right? This is a cost. And again, I'm giving you the lowest case number, the worst case scenario, so that when that number's higher, you like me, right? I'm your best friend. Because I'm telling you this, and everybody else is not, So I tell you, okay, it's 10%. The total income is $26,000. Your expenses, your holding cost is $9,600. Your total yearly profit is $16,400. How do I get the cap rate? Do you guys know how to do cap rates? Yeah? No? You guys don't do cap rates for your clients? So what do? You take the total profit, right, $16,400, and you're going to divide it by your acquisition. Your acquisition is $280,000. You get a 5.86 return. For the most part, in this market, I would say that this is, when you buy a new property right now, this is what you're going to see, like 5 to 7%. 7% is good. Obviously, if you bought a house 3 years ago, if you bought a house 3 years ago, it has appreciated, so your acquisition cost was lower, rents have gone up exponentially, so of course your cap rates right now are incredible. So this is another investment. These are actual emails and things that I send to my clients, so that they're like, wow, this is such great information, it's easy to read, everything is there. So when I do a property for someone that's going to be leveraging with a bank, I will tell them, okay, so this is all the information, and why do I put all that information? It's almost like a system, right, that I have. It's a spreadsheet. So we have the address, the asking price, the specs of the property. We have the lot size, the age that it was built. Why is that important? Because the insurances are going to be reflected upon this. So I'll have a teammate put in all this information so that when I look at it, I can make my own projections. Obviously, you have to disclaim that these numbers are not final because, we haven't gone through mitigation inspections to get real numbers. These are just estimates. So is there a homestead exemption right now? Because the taxes are going to change, right? So I want to know all that stuff. Then I want to know the remarks. He's going to tell me more about the property. Plus, my client is looking at this. Because if I send them a link with a list of properties, what's it going to do for them? They don't know what they're looking at. They don't know what they're analyzing. So then you have all that stuff. So then we take the total yearly expenses, right? So we have the tax estimate, we have the insurance estimate, and we take that, and that becomes our holding costs, and then we have our profit from our rent. So our profit from our rent here is $1,800. Well, this is a duplex, right? It's an efficiency. It's got a 2-1 and a studio. So you got $1,800 for the 2-1 each month, and you got $800 for the studio. So you're making $2,600 per month, right? And then the cash flow is going to be that number, because your total monthly payment is $2,271, right? So if you're making $2,600 and you minus your mortgage payment and all your holding costs is $2,271, you're making $329 per month, which is good, because usually cash flows are a little like in the 200 range. Again, all subjective to when you buy, when you rent, all that's going to change. But I want to know when I talk to you that, look, your cash flow each month is $329. You're making $4,000 a year for your for your 20% investment. So when I did the computation of the numbers, it's about a 4% return. But the benefit of this is not so much your cash flow, it's the growth for the future that it could appreciate, or you're building a portfolio. In 30 years, somebody else is paying your mortgage. And look, now you got a property that you can sit and you can collect money on. This is my favorite part of investing, right? Because I've worked a lot with buy and hold investors, but I love flipping houses, right? I went to that seminar, I told you, and I built a great network, and I was able to get a lot of tools. So what I was able to get from here, which you guys can create this on your own, is a repair estimator. So I've computed this form so many times. It tells you like roof, floors, bathrooms, kitchens, paint, landscaping, repairs, AC. So now whenever I go into a house, I'm able to tell people, okay, this roof, this is a 2,000 square foot house. Your roof is probably going to run you between 30 to 40,000, depending on what tiles you pick, depending on your roofer. I mean, obviously with inflation things change. But how can you create this yourself? You could just get aligned with someone in the respective fields, and just figure out like how much does a bathroom cost, how much does a small bathroom cost, how much does a big bathroom cost, and that way when you walk into a house you can be like, okay, so $5 a square foot in tile times 1,000 square feet, that's 5,000 square feet, that's $5,000. Well, now maybe double because of inflation. But you're able to project these things. So when you're flipping houses, you look at that. Then what do you do once you figure out how much it's going to cost to fix that house? Then I have another sheet, and this is called the deal analyzer sheet. And this is very important because a lot of wholesalers in Miami will tell you, oh, okay, so here's an acquisition, $100,000, $50,000 repair, and its after repair value is $200,000. So you're going to make $50,000. But they didn't tell you what it's going to cost to hold it. They didn't tell you what it's going to cost when the realtor has to put their commission. They didn't tell you how much it's going to cost to borrow the money, or the taxes, or the insurance, or the utilities. Nothing. So this sheet from the Fortune Builders, right? Love this. I love Fortune Builders because it gave me all these things, right? Which is able to make me an expert to my investors because I'm using all these cool tools. But you guys can make these as well because you know if you go into like what it takes, the cost for each deal, you can create your own, cost deal analyzer. Just make sure that you have the financing fees, you have the closing fees, make sure you know what the taxes are, utilities, all that good stuff. So here, once you plug in all the information, let's say this is a $900,000 sales price, right? The flip on this one's $900,000. After you pay everything, you got a $45,000 profit. You put in only $85,000. Your annualized cash return is 103% return, right? But like, here's the other thing: if I'm making a 20% return in 3 months, that's really what 20%? That's an 80% return on your money in a year. Because if you were to do that 4 times in the year, it's annualized. So I also speak in those numbers because I feel like that is more attractive. If you're going to make 8% return, but it's in 3 months, then you could tell them, no, you're really making 32% return in the year, and then people, it's the truth, and it sounds more exciting. So with new construction, this is also another very popular way for people to invest. Most people from overseas are interested in new construction. This is not really my forte, so I know my lanes, right? So in this case, I will probably contact friends who are in these buildings and ask them for their opinions, and kind of like, I'll never tell a buyer like, I don't understand. What I always tell people is, listen, I'm very well connected. I have a lot of friends, and what I'm going to do is we're going to make sure that we put 1,000% effort to research this for you, to find the best construction for you. And then you also want to say, like, what are you looking for? Like, do you want to be in the heart of a new upcoming area? Do you want to be somewhere more safe, suburban? And you kind of like can figure out in those areas what's the best thing, and then you can look at the historical things that have gone on. Like, for example, Lennar right now is killing it. You bought a house from Lennar, and 2 years ago you're making like $150,000 to $100,000 in profits, but I can't say the same for, like, in 2018 I sold a Lennar house that they had bought in 2016, and they lost $40,000. And it was notorious that when you got a new construction property that it wasn't appreciating. So, everything will change, and that's the one thing that you have to know, is that everything is going to change, and you have to be able to be flexible with that. So how do you build rapport, right? This is the most important thing, that people have to trust you, that your clients have to think that you're the expert, that you're the one that's going to help guide them. They want to feel safe with their investments with you. So of course you want to know the market, right, and all the different sectors. If you're not an expert in this, then find someone to team up with who is, and just be that person to be able to connect the dots for people, so that you can create more opportunities for yourself and for others. Of course, neighborhood trends, demographics. This is very important. I use IMAP demographics all the time. I want to know what's the percentage of rent versus own when I'm looking into investments. If I'm looking to flip a house, maybe I want to see more owners because I want to flip to owners. If I want to be somewhere that's more affluent, I have a higher income. Like, there's a lot of different things that you want to look into to make sure that you're making the right investments.